Hey folks, how you doing? This is Mr. MegaManFan. Like, share, comment, subscribe. You know all the things to do. And today, I've got a package of items from Atari Age. Thanks to my good friend Al. Not a sponsored video, but thanks to him for having all of these items and shipping them out so quickly. I ordered midweek and I already had them by Saturday, so that is extremely fast turnaround. Although it probably helps that it went from Texas to the Midwest, so it didn't have to travel all the way across the country one way or the other. It was just pretty much straight north-south. Anyway, this is a follow-up of sorts to the RobotWar 2684 video, although that really isn't the game that shows off one of these items the best, so I've got another game on deck for that purpose, but RobotWar 2684 did inspire me to pick up the AtariVox because it can be used for dual purposes. It can be used as a save key, and it can be used to add speech synthesis to games that support it. So that should be fun to mess around with. And for the games where I don't even want to bother hooking up speakers, I've got a standalone save key, which I'll show you in a minute. But I also got the Jaguar game drive made by Retro HQ. Now, this is not compatible with the Jaguar CD if you're lucky enough to have one of those. But if you use it without the Jaguar CD attached, it functions like any flash cartridge you can think of. You know, the EverDrive N8 Pro, the Mega EverDrive Pro, etc. This blue stick here is the save key, the non-AtariVox save key. The AtariVox has a save key of its own built in, so it can do two things at once. Anyway, all that's left in here is foam peanuts. So let me get all this stuff out of the package and give you a closer look at the goods that I ordered. As you can see, there were a bunch of flyers in here as well. One for the Atari Age forums, which have just been upgraded, so if you haven't logged in for a while, now might be a good time to do that and update your browser settings. They're going to be at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo this year, so there's a flyer for that. And a thank you for your purchase, reminding you that you can write reviews at the Atari Age store. And the AtariVox manual, which tells you how to change the dip switch settings if you need to, if you're going to use it with a Vectrix or with specific Vectrix games that support an older speech synthesis standard than the current version. So you have to get a screwdriver out and open it up to flip the dip switches, but by default it comes set up to use with Atari 2600 or Atari 7800, and it boasts that all the save data will last 200 years, which is quite impressive if true. I mean, that could be marketing hype, but Atari Age products tend to be good quality, so I'm gonna take their word for it in this case. And they also threw in an Atari Age sticker, and there you see the AtariVox, which also works with Vectrix, although you will need an extension cable to plug it in because it's a little too big for the port by itself, but make sure you get the right extension cable because some of them do not carry all the pins all the way through. As you can see at the top, you can put a micro SD card in the Jaguar game drive, and it comes loaded at purchase with the latest firmware, so you're good to go. And here is the manual for the game drive, which tells you that, and also tells you that it's not compatible with the Jaguar CD, so everything you need to know is in this handy dandy guide, including where to go to look for firmware updates, which I believe there are some Jaguar CD games that are now supported thanks to the latest firmware that you can actually run them off the cart, but I will have to delve into that in a future video because today I'm going to focus on the AtariVox itself. So last but not least, there's the save key, which since I won't need it right away, I'll just leave it in the baggie. So I think the game that shows off the AtariVox best is Juno first because it has both voice support and save data support. So be sure when you're purchasing a homebrew game from Atari Age or anywhere else to see which features are enabled. Some have AtariVox support, some have save key support, and a very few select titles like Juno First actually have both. And in this one, the voice support tells you what wave you're on, when you're running low on fuel, and it mocks you when you die. So there's a lot of neat enhancements with the AtariVox that I was not even aware of until I got it. And I have to say, Juno First was already a fun game to begin with, but it's even more fun with the additional voice enhanced option. It just does it by default. You don't even have to select it from the menu or anything. Once you boot it up, you have your joystick in port 1, you have the AtariVox in the 9-pin for joystick port 2, and you hook it up to external speakers, and if your speakers are plugged in and the AtariVox is plugged in correctly, it'll say, AtariVox, ready. And then whatever game is supported, you will hear the voice. And if it doesn't have any voice enhancements, then it will just be a save key. It will save your high scores. So let me skip ahead a little to when I die in this game and show you how the save table works and how it mocks you when you're dead. So now you'll see that if I cycle the power to the Atari off and on, these high scores will still be there after I do, because they're now stored on the save key portion of the AtariVox. And this is for any compatible games, so it'll save those scores for whatever games. It apparently has enough memory to hold a whole lot of different scores. So Galagon I know is compatible, and this is compatible, and I think the remake of Asteroids is compatible. But here, I'll show you. I just cycled the power, and we'll go to the high score table, and there are the two scores I entered. One, I didn't enter my initials correctly because I hit fire instead of moving the cursor left or right, but as you can see, it works. And it will also save the scores, whether or not the game is voice enhanced, as we are about to see with RobotWar 2684. Because when I talked to Al on Atari Age, he informed me that it was a compatible game, and I was like, well, shoot, I need to get the save key in the AtariVox anyway. I've been meaning to do that for a while. Do you have those in stock? And he said, as a matter of fact, I do. So I put in an order for both of those and the game drive. And like I said, everything got here super fast, which is how I feel playing RobotWar 2684. Everything moves super fast. But in addendum to the previous video I did about this, I was so anxious to try the game, I didn't even fully comprehend what was on the back of the box, and I mentioned I wasn't sure if twin stick works or not. As a matter of fact, it does. But if you're going to play with twin stick, obviously controller ports 1 and 2 will both be taken up. So when you're done playing, you'll have to take one of them out and put in the save key or the AtariVox to save your high score. So while you've got them both plugged in, there's no place for the save key. So for the purpose of this video, I'm not playing twin stick, but I just wanted you to know it is indeed an option, and it's recognized when you have two joysticks in that one will be for movement and the other will be for firing, just like playing classic Robotron. But I think the more interesting part here is that I can save my high scores when I have a particularly good run. Like, this run I'm on right now is better than any of the ones I had while I was demonstrating RobotWar 2684 on homebrew reviews. So maybe I was doing better just because I knew I would get to save my high score at the end. But whatever the case may be, even though I kind of screwed up there at the end, it was still satisfying to know I was going to get to enter my initials And it even remembered my initials from my previous play session. That's how good this save key is it remembers your initials and it remembers your scores. So my previous high score got bumped down and I got a new high score at the top. Or third from the top, I should say, but you get the point. So that's the AtariVox, and I also got the save key and the game drive for the Jaguar, and I'll go over those in future videos.